everyone, Renee here. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we are giving you my fall TBR and also just some nice fall book recommendations. So I don't often do TBRs on my channel. I have discovered that TBRs just don't really work for me. I am a huge mood reader, so I kind of stopped doing TBRs except for situations like this where it's more seasonal. So I am going to be sharing that with you with some of the books that I hope to get to this month or this season, but I also wanted to start with some books that I've read in the past that I would recommend for you to add to your fall TBR. So I think how I'm going to start this is going over my recommendation portion. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into the books. So for the books that I've already read that I do recommend you adding to your TBR, I'm going to start with, this should be no surprise, my favorite book of all time, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book, incredible. And I know that it has a lot of mixed reviews where some people find it really boring or it's just not people's taste or what they expect going into it. But I have talked about this book so many times, and I really think that the best way for you to go into it is with zero expectations, because there are a lot of expectations circulating around this book that will be disappointing if you go into with them. So just go into it with no expectations. This is also really great if you prefer a very character-driven story, a lot of character development and that kind of stuff. If you're okay with it not being as plot-centered and going on this like elaborate adventure, then I think you'll appreciate this a lot more. This is a very beautiful story of a girl's life who is cursed to live forever with nobody remembering her. So for me, it is a very beautiful story of time and of life and also of love, and it definitely made a huge impact on me when I read it, because books, when you read them, can definitely kind of dictate how you feel about them. So for me, reading this at age 25, going through a quarter-life crisis, was absolutely perfect, and I cried. And as far as autumn goes, I don't know, it just feels like fall. Like if I had to give Addie LaRue a season, I would give it fall. So that's why this is here. And I'm also always going to try to find a spot to recommend this. Then another book that was in my top favorites of the year last year, ignore my tabs. This is the first book I ever tabbed and they're awful, but it's A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a polygamous vampire story, a retelling of Dracula's Brides. It does focus on toxic relationships, but it is so beautiful. It has exquisite prose, it's beautifully written, and it's just a stunning story. It's not that long, you can go through it really quick, and it's definitely something that will stick with you. I don't think it's gonna be for everybody, but if what I've said about it in the beginning sound intriguing to you, then just the way it's written and the story itself is definitely something that is going to kind of imprint on your mind. And I definitely want to reread this soon because it was absolutely stunning to read, literally unlike anything I've ever read before. Also, I forgot to preface this, but this video might give you a little bit of whiplash because there isn't one specific genre that I'm honing in on. Over the past year, I've really worked on expanding my reading taste, but I will say you're going to get mostly romance, thriller, horror, literary fiction, and some mixed media like poetry, manga type of stuff. Those tend to be the genres that I read the most, so therefore that's what I'm going to be recommending. Moving on to the next one is a romance book, and I absolutely loved it. It's The X Hex by Erin Sterling. This I read last year in October, right around Halloween, and it was perfect. And it's about this girl who put a hex on a boy who broke her heart, and it is incredibly witchy. There's a lot of magic, and it's just such a whimsical and magical tale for the holiday. It is a perfect Halloween rom-com, which I honestly think that there should be more of, but this was so fun. By all means, is it the best written book? Like, I don't think so, but it's just so fun to read. I absolutely loved it. Then I'm moving on, I'm going to give you a thriller, and I almost didn't put this one on here because I gave this thriller a 3-star, but I definitely think that it has an audience, and that is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This book takes place dual timelines, so you have the past back in I think the 50s and then a more present day timeline, but both timelines are around October, November. and it even dates it for you as well. So it definitely is very autumnal, very spooky vibes, very eerie, atmospheric, paranormal kind of talk going on in this book as well. So that being said, it is a paranormal thriller, and I think that there's definitely an audience for that. It centers around these mysterious disappearances of these girls from a boarding school, along with a disappearance that happens in present day as well. So I think that if you're into that kind of stuff, you'll really like it. And just the atmosphere alone, if you're really looking for a more spooky, fall-esque thriller, then I think that this one would be good for you. Then moving on to a couple other recommendations, I have a manga and a poetry book. The manga, kind of like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I'm going to find any excuse that I can to recommend it to you, and that is Orange. This is my favorite manga of all time. To me, I feel like this could be read in multiple different seasons, but it also does scream fall. It is a very reflective manga, which I feel like for me in the fall, I do a lot of self-reflecting in the fall specifically. I don't know what it is, but for me, that's what resonates autumn to me in this book. And it's just a stunning story. It made me cry. I sobbed like a bitch when I read this book. There are some heavy topics, trigger warnings for depression and suicide, but all things aside, it is absolutely stunning. It follows this group of friends who have gotten older, and as they've gotten older, they write letters to themselves for their past selves, which are following more so in this manga, trying to fix something that happened in their past that left them with a lot of regrets and sadness in the future. It's stunning. I can't recommend it enough. I've talked about it enough. If you like manga, just go read it. And then the last book that I'm going to say in the recommendation part of this video is a poetry collection, and that is Film for Her by Orion Carlotto. And this, I feel like, is another one that you could kind of read any time of the year, but like I said about Orange, in the fall time is when I'm most reflective on my own life, and I feel like this poetry collection definitely made me reflect a lot on my life. This poetry collection is definitely more intimate, and even though it's about the author's life, it could definitely also be applied to your own life as you're reading it, and it just makes you reflect on a lot. It makes you think, and it makes you feel, and I feel like fall is just the best time for something like that. My camera cut off for whatever reason, and that was super rude, but yeah, anyway, fall time I feel like it's just a great time to read Film for Her. And there's a lot of photography in here as well, like film photography-esque photos, which just make it even better. Absolutely love it. So those are all of the books on the recommendation portion. Those are the books that I've actually read and can speak on, but the rest of the books in this video are going to be books that I have not read that I really do want to get to this season. So we do have a variety of books in this as well. The first two I'm going to start with are by the same author. So we have November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and I feel like this should be kind of self-explanatory. It's literally called November 9. I know this takes place in November, and I feel like I'm gonna wait until November to read this. I probably won't read it until November 9th. I don't know what it's about. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I'm not sure if I'm even gonna like it. Colleen Hoover has been very hit or miss for me lately, but I want to give it a shot. I've owned it for the past year. I missed the opportunity to read it last November, so hopefully this year works out a little bit better. So we have this one. And then the second Colleen Hoover book that I have is Layla. This is her other thriller. I did read Verity a couple years ago, and I really, really love Verity. I think that Colleen Hoover did a great job on that book, so I'm really interested to see what her other thriller is like. Now this one I've also had for a while, but it's been a little bit polarizing to me just because of the mixed reviews that it has. People seem to have very strong opinions whether they love it or they hate it, so I'm very interested to see on what side I fall on. But all I know about it is that it's another thriller by Colleen Hoover, and it seems very autumnal, I guess I would say. So these are the two Colleen Hoover books that I hope to get to in the fall, and we'll see how that goes. Then I guess we could move into some more like horror-esque books. So the first one that I have is You've Lost a Lot of Blood by Eric LaRocca. This is the same author who wrote Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, which I read last year. It was very weird. I had a lot of mixed feelings on it, but this is definitely a book that has kind of stuck with me over time, or Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, I should say, because of the writing style of this author. And I'm very intrigued to see what is in store in this one. These are just some weird, quirky little horror books that I can't help but be intrigued about. And no, I don't have any idea what this is about, but look at the cover. If that doesn't scream, you need to read this in October, Then we'll go with White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. This I believe is a young adult horror, which I typically wouldn't be interested in, but I do really love Tiffany D. Jackson's writing. I did read Grown last year and absolutely loved it, and this one I've heard is actually really scary. I know a bunch of my friends that have read this said that it really did creep them out, so I'm really excited to kind of experience that. I don't know what this is about either. Honestly, half the books on here, I have no idea what it's about, and I've found lately that that's kind of what I like. I like going into books unknowing. As long as people that I know and trust have read them, or it sounds interesting when other booktubers talk about it, or people talk about it when they're reviewing books, then I'm highly inclined. Or in this case, if it's also an author that I really like. So yeah, I think this does involve a haunted house, but I'm not entirely sure. But this cover also, absolutely stunning. Then I also would really love to get to Tender as the Flesh. I've had this book for a while and it's really intimidating to me, just because I know a lot of people say that this book is absolutely crazy in terms of like what it does to your mind. It makes you think a lot about society as it is, and like just feeling like this could actually potentially happen one day is a little daunting. Not that I think it will, but I hear that it definitely has a lot of societal innuendos that could be very reflective to today, and that is a little intimidating to me. But essentially, I believe the premise of this book is where you live in a world where animal meat has become toxic to humans. So their solution to that, instead of just cutting out meat, is to make it legal to eat humans. So it is more cannibalistic. This sounds like it's going to be an incredibly gripping story, honestly. So I'm very intrigued and excited to read this. The next one I'm gonna go into is more, I guess, young adult, I think, and that is Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shea Earnshaw. This is a Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh my god, great series, by the way, love Freddy. But Nightmare Before Christmas, retelling or spin-off, I should say, involving Sally, aka the Pumpkin Queen. I am so excited to delve back into this story. I love the Nightmare Before Christmas so much. It's a childhood fave, and I watch it every year, or I try to. So I'm definitely excited to read this, and I think it'll just be a nice kind of mix up with all the other books, because this one is a little bit more nostalgic, I guess I would say. Then also, hopefully this year I can finally, after saying it for years, get to Bunny by Mona Awad. I have wanted to read this for years, and I just haven't. But I need to, but I literally won't read it unless it's fall. So hopefully this will be the year for it. I'm sure everyone knows what Bunny is. I know this book is really weird, it's very popular, and I literally don't know how to explain it, because I don't think anyone knows how to explain it, because every single time I watch someone talk about this, it's just so mysterious. I know it's supposed to be humorous and maybe a little satirical. I'm not quite sure, but I'm excited nonetheless. And then the last two that I have on here are literary fictions. So we have A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This has an annotation. This has tabs in it because I was using it as a bookmark. I have already started this. I never finished it. Not because I don't like it. It was actually going very, very well. I just got into a reading slump. So hopefully this fall I'm able to finish this. I don't know why I put this for fall. It just screams fall for me, and I'm really excited to delve into it. And this book follows a woman serial killer who is going through her story of killing men, and I think also eating men. This is a cannibalistic story, but it's supposed to be like strong female empowerment, very feminist literary fiction, and I'm super excited to get back into this. And then the last book that I have on here for my TBR is Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan. This has been on my radar for a while, and I know so many people have read it by now and so many people have loved it. I don't know why I haven't. I know I've said this and I probably sound like a broken record, but I feel like literary fiction is very reflective to the self. And for me, autumn is the best time to read those. So I want to read this. I don't know too much about it, but I do know that it is an anti-romance, but I also know that it's incredibly hard-hitting from what I've heard, very gripping, and it's incredibly emotional for a lot of people. So I'm really excited to delve into this and see how I interpret it. So there you have it. Those are all of the books that I either recommend for you to read this fall or that I also want to read this fall. If you've read any of the books that I haven't, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of those books, if you liked those books, or if you have any other recommendations, please feel free to share. I have been in a massive reading slump for a majority of the summer, so I'm hoping that now that fall is coming, I always get in the mood to read in the fall, and I'm hoping that these books really kind of revitalize my reading life this year, because I really need to catch up, and I'm really excited for all these books. So we'll see how many I get to. I doubt I'll get to all of them, but hopefully a lot of them. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up down below to help support this channel, and also hit subscribe to follow me on my reading journey if you haven't already. Like always, all of my socials will be down below. You can follow me wherever you'd like: TikTok, Goodread, Twitter, Instagram, the works. And yeah, once again, I hope you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!